Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 18th, 2020 City Council meeting. We will call the meeting to order and indicate for the record that all members of the council are present. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. The first item on our agenda this evening is the consent calendar. These are items which are normally adopted in one motion unless someone has something they wish to pull for a separate discussion. Are there any suggestions, corrections, or a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion by Diaz, a second by Juan to approve the consent calendar. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. We have no recognitions or presentations this evening. That comes at the next meeting or perhaps the one after, depending on how our timing works. The next item is reports. We did not have a planning commission meeting, nor did we have a Trails and Landscape Committee meeting, so the next item is the city manager and staff report.
Greetings, Mayor Pierce and council member. Just wanted to give you a quick update with the community members who are here today that I had a great conversation with state parks last week. Talked with Ann, who's overseeing some of the grants, so looking for some free money for the city. So there's two possible grants that we are putting in for. One for about $200,000 is the per capita state park grant, and another grant called the Revenue Enhancement Program. And so these are some possible fundings that I just wanted to make you aware of, the community aware of, that we're trying to get some funding out there. If there's any monies out there available, we definitely want to capture that. So just want to make you apprised of that, and that's it for me.
Okay.
On what basis is the grant?
What's that?
On what basis is the grant
Yeah, so
granted?
So what makes this eligible? So the per capita grant, really you just have to express interest. This is for all cities to express interest. So basically sending in a letter of interest, they'll have based population on that. So how much feasible that is. The other is revenue enhancement program. So if we have a park, such as Groves, and we're looking at possibly landscape, the LMD landscape maintenance district, if cities raise funds through taxes to enhance parks, then we have a possibility of being eligible to receive these funds and these grants. So they're going to look into it and see. They're going to look at the text of our measure and what our ballot said, and they will then have a discussion with us if we can move forward in the process or not.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Any other questions? If not, we'll go to council reports. We'll start down here with Tuya.
No official committee or liaison reports.
Jeff?
I have no report as well.
Okay. CW.
I went to the mayor's conference in Pittsburgh and learned a lot about urban planning and the road situation and how to improve transportation and how important it is that we all support Measure J coming up. Maybe the last chance we're going to have to get that kind of funding in quite a while. I met with our city manager on the phone and spent a couple of days talking with constituents. Went out to a Safeway and stood out there and got a chance to meet people from Clayton and talk over some of the issues that are coming up and getting ready for our strategic goal setting for tomorrow. So that's my report.
Okay. Jim?
A couple of things. First, I'd like to make two announcements that in the past couple of weeks we've lost two area residents One was Carmen Williams, the family that owned the Village Market, and I attended her services. And unfortunately, we lost one of our retired sergeants, Tim O'Hara, and I'll be attending his services this week. I would respectfully request that we adjourn the meeting in their memory tonight. I attended the Historical Society tea on last Sunday. It was very lovely, and I got to meet a number of the members there. Then on Thursday the 13th, I attended the graduation class of the 54th Academy of the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. This was probably one of their largest classes. They had 22 graduates who will now be spread out amongst the district, and we may get one here or two in Station 11, but very impressive group. It's very competitive. One thing they noted, they had like nearly 1,000 applicants, and they got that down to 25. 3 did not make it through the entire 20-week academy. It's tough. Mm-hmm. And they show you a video of what they go through. And then this morning I met with the city manager with a one meeting for preparation for tonight and for tomorrow's goal setting. That's it.
All righty, and a couple of weeks ago, I met with the Regional Planning Committee of the Association of Bay Area Governments, talking about Plan Bay Area 2050, and some of the ideas going forward and how we're going to merge that with the regional housing needs allocation process, and those kinds of things. Also met with the Admin and Planning Committee of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Had a meeting in the afternoon with Doug Moore, who is one of the owners of Oakhurst, and had a conversation with him about some of the things that they want to do to improve not only the club and the facility, but how they want to work more closely with the city. And we will be hosting the Mayor's Conference come April at Oakhurst. So it'll be a chance to show off the city of Clayton yet again. Hope for a nice sunset again. I also attended the Mayor's Conference. We had in addition to the discussion about transportation planning, we also had a really nice presentation on photo imaging and how you can use that for the planning process, visualizing overlays of what something would look like after you do an improvement, but doing it all through photography. And one of these fellows, he's traveled all across the United States talking about this and doing this, and just sort of flying by the seat of his pants, sort of invented how to do it. And it's really fascinating. He's done a beautiful job. And we'll get the link if anybody wants to see the presentation that he gave to us of the possibilities to visualize ahead of time when you take a pretty stark landscape and turn it into something that's more of a community. It was very well done. Also attended the Association of Bay Area Governments General Assembly. It was a necessary meeting because we have the opportunity for a $250,000 planning grant from the state of California, part of a $500,000 grant that we will be getting in total, but the first tranche of it is coming in very soon. And we had to officially amend our budget in order to be able to receive it. So since that meant a major change to the budget, that was the main reason for the business meeting. However, we took advantage of that and had a really good discussion about regional housing needs allocation, how that process works. We talked about growth. We had some really good sessions, a very lively meeting, which was very, very well attended. Of that planning money that will come to the Association of Bay Area Governments, every city is eligible to get a piece of that for planning. So that's on a per capita basis, in addition to the money we get directly from the state. So chance for us to augment our meager budget for planning and be able to add some extra work. So that was my last 2 weeks. So,
Julie,
yes,
quick
go
question.
ahead.
So do you know when the Bay Area will receive its large RENA allocation number, and then when the cities will get their figures?
Right
approximately?
now, the earliest we expect to hear from Housing and Community Development in Sacramento is probably late April, might be even May or June. It's not really a set time. We have given them some initial numbers. They are working with us. We had a representative from HCD there at the General Assembly. It was a really good discussion. All of those sessions, by the way, were videotaped and they are on the ABAG website. Extremely interesting, lively discussion. We had, in the morning session, we had 3 of our legislators there as well, talking about their plans, and they got some pretty tough questions thrown at them, so that was interesting. But we hope we might be able to adopt the number, or at least have our draft number out to the cities by sometime late fall.
Okay.
We don't have to adopt the final until summer of '21, but we do have to get the process rolling, and there's a whole appeal process now. But that now is going to be, instead of ruled on by the local council of governments, it also gets reviewed by the state. So the state is involving itself more and more in all of these processes. So, but they are working very proactively together with us and attending the Housing Methodology Committee meetings. So they're with us in the room while we're putting our plans together. So that's helpful. So we do expect, however, that the number for the entire region will probably be at least double, if not triple, what it's been in the past. So we'll wait and see. So that's my report. Next item on the agenda would have been public hearings. We have none. And the next item is item 8, which is item 8A, which is to
You skipped number 6.
I skipped over public comment. You're right, I did. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comment. This is for items not listed on tonight's agenda. You may speak to items on tonight's agenda at the time they come up. Any members of the public, I do have 2 speaker cards right here. I almost buried them. So I have, these are both on specific items. So is there anyone that wishes to speak on any item not on tonight's agenda? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close.
Mayor Pierce, may I
Yes.
interrupt?
Yeah.
Respectfully interrupt. I apologize, but just wanted to point out, again, as we had 4 people drop off from the TLC, and we have 5 people coming up. Just wanted to just wanted to see, Mayor, if you want to give them the 2 that are in the audience opportunity, just a fair.
I
share
did
a few
not know they
seconds.
were here. Absolutely.
I believe we have Tricia Brown and Karen Case in the audience.
Okay. Welcome, and thank you. We appreciate it. It's going to be a lively year, I think.
Yeah.
So, glad to have you on board. When we have our goal-setting session tomorrow, I actually have some ideas for that, so one step at a time. Might even mention them later when it comes up on the agenda. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item 8A, and I do have 1 speaker card for that, so we'll get to that after the presentation. But that is to talk about pedestrian safety improvements around the schools and in downtown. And we have our city engineer here to talk about that.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the City Council. Members of the City Council. That sounds better. So at the beginning of the school year, we had come to you with information about traffic circulation and pedestrian safety and issues around the schools. And I wanted to come back to you. We had requested funding from CCTA, and I wanted to report back to you about that funding and then seek your direction about how to proceed with these. The 4 things that we had looked at as possible projects or parts of a possible large project were to renew the striping and install 2 interactive stop signs at the Pine Hollow Road, Mitchell Canyon Road intersection. I say 2 stop signs, it's a 4-way stop. two of those stop signs shine or would shine into residential area. And so we've left those, proposed to leave those as standard R1 red signs and not have the interactive lights, because in the evening, those lights are very bright, and I think it would be disturbing potentially to the residents if it, shone in their windows or whatever. So we're proposing to stop Pine Hollow Road as you come from the quarry towards downtown. I'm sorry, Mitchell Canyon from the quarry downtown, and Pine Hollow from Concord towards the elementary school, stopping those two legs with the interactive signs, and the other two directions leave them as just standard R1 signs. The second item was a pedestrian scramble phase at the intersection of Clayton and Marsh Creek, adjacent to and in front of the middle school. And this would complete improvements to that intersection that would legally give us a pedestrian-only phase. It would put up two no right turn stop sign boxes that are separate signals from what's there now. We would stop all the right turns on three of the legs. The fourth leg coming out of the middle school has a free right that's outside of the pedestrian area, so it would be able to remain as it is. But by doing that, then we could turn the kids loose to literally cross the intersection any direction that they needed to. Currently, they cross from the middle school across to the opposite side of Clayton Road, and then they turn and try to cross Clayton Road again, but they try to do it in one cycle, and they typically get about halfway across the second leg and the light turns red, and so it causes issues. This would allow them to go diagonally across, and it would allow them to be able to clear that intersection in one cycle, and then we'd turn it back over to the vehicles for a round of cycles and then back to the PEDs. So again, like we would need to upgrade the couple of no right turn signal boxes and some of that, and then restripe it. So that was the proposal for that intersection. The request had also been made for an interactive, and we're saying solar power because of where it's located, but signal ahead sign on eastbound Clayton Road approaching the signal at Diablo View. We've had a couple of instances where people have had near misses at dusk when the signal is difficult to see and pedestrians are difficult to see and cars have blown that intersection. So this would give them a heads up or a forewarning that the signal is there. And then the last was suggested by one of our police officers that the intersection at Marsh Creek and Center in the downtown area, people tend to have blown the intersection or the stop signs there on Marsh Creek Road, and was suggested to put two interactive stop signs there. These stop signs are, because the road widens at the intersection, the stop signs are each considerably to the right and a little bit difficult to see, and they can't really go in a different location, but if we did put the interactive signs there, that might make them more noticeable that the folks would see them and not blow through the intersection if they were thinking of or doing that. So the thing that I didn't put on here, and I meant to, and I apologize, is the cost of each of these. These are the best estimates that we have come up with at the time. The striping and the interactive stop signs at the Pine Hollow Road, Mitchell Canyon Road area around the elementary school is about $27,000. The pedestrian scramble phase is about $24,000. The signal ahead sign is approximately $11,000, and the two interactive stop signs downtown would be roughly $5,500. So that comes out to about $70,000, and we didn't get any new money from CCTA, but when our interim city manager had requested, the possibility of funding, CCTA did come back and remind us that we're receiving two lump sum payments, both of them from Measure J. One of them is the Program 28A co-op funds. Our distribution this year is $34,048, and the other is the LSM. This is the off-year funds. This is a 2-year program This is the off year, and there's a makeup amount of just cleaning up the funding amount. So the off-year funds this year are $36,000. So between this two, we've got a little over $70,000 to put towards this project if you would desire to use the money in that method. Those two funding amounts have not been allocated as of yet, and so they are available to use on any number of different transportation-related items, but we were proposing that would be a good way to use it on this to fulfill your request about improving the pedestrian safety. So based on that, we're asking for direction, and if you would like us to move forward with the CIP project and establish the budget. So I'm happy to answer questions, and I've also got a couple of different pictures here that if this helps about location. This is the Pine Hollow, Mitchell Canyon. The current striping there it's just worn out, and a lot of it is using dots, the raised pavement markers, they pop off, they disappear. So my proposal is that we would do this in thermoplastic striping and remove the bots dots approach that we've used in the past. I think it makes the intersection stand out a lot better. And I think it also, with the visual of the solid stripes or the painted stripes, thermoplastic stripes at the center line, it narrows the street. And so it acts as traffic calming because it channelizes that street more. Now you can basically kind of go up the middle of the street because there's not enough delineation to really stand out. So I think that will help direct traffic, slow traffic, and channelize it where we wish to have it, where it needs to be for safety. This is the intersection of Marsh Creek, and Clayton Road at the middle school. I'm showing just one diagonal here. You could go both ways, but honestly, where's the pointer? Is it this?
Yeah, the red one.
The red one.
There's no demand.
There's no demand at this corner, exactly. Absolutely no demand. So putting that there could become actually an attractive nuisance. Yeah. And we're proposing to not put that in there. If in the future there was a demand that came, you could stripe the other diagonal across and there would be no loss. But at this point, I just don't think that it's appropriate necessarily to do that. So we're proposing, it's still a full scramble cycle, but there's really no attraction to go the other way, the other diagonal. This would be the location approximately 500 feet from the intersection. That's appropriate under the MUTCD for locating that type of a sign. The MUTCD is the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control devices, and it lays out distances and such for different types of signs. This would actually be inside the school's flashing sign, 25 miles an hour when children are present, which is appropriate because that sign is much further out as you enter a school zone. It's a much larger zone. This would be as you're entering the curve and the signal is ahead of you so that it doesn't just pop out of nowhere. You see the warning before the signal will actually appear. And the last item are the two downtown stop signs. And as you can see, these are quite a ways off to the side of both. Here's the through lane. Oops, I'm shaking. Here's the through lane. The sign is way off here to the right, or on the side, it's on the other, it's to the right of the right turn lane. So just making those more visible, it would be the approach for that one. So with that, I'll ask for your direction or questions.
Okay, questions from council? To you.
I have a couple of questions. Thank you very much for actually bringing this back. This is awesome. But I have a couple of questions. So first is if you can go to the first picture that shows Mitchell Canyon Road and Pine Hollow Road.
Yes.
So I think so a lot of the concern I think is when you're coming from Clayton on Mitchell Canyon and then turning right on Pine Hollow, a lot of people leave our city in the morning going that route, and a lot of people leave in the dark and cut the corner pretty fast over there. So I think you said that there is a residence. So I don't know if it's the one in the corner or which one you think would be impacted by having
I
stuff
was
like
concerned
that.
this one in the corner.
No, on the other side, that one.
And
Yeah.
no, but I'm thinking this, the reflection off of the sign. The sign faces back Mitchell Canyon Road, but there's a fair amount of peripheral glare.
Right.
And I was most concerned with that house right there, that would get that peripheral glare, presumably, into the front of the house. Maybe I'm being overly cautious, but, I looked at it and I thought, man, if it was me, I wouldn't want that. This house immediately on the corner has quite a bit of coverage, growth, trees, et cetera, I think would block it, but it's still, that's a potential. So, I mean, either one of those two houses were the concern, but actually my greater concern was the one to the right as you look at this picture.
So the one to the right, the one with the log type facade. So I mean, I don't, do they have a lot of windows facing? I don't recall.
Let's take a look.
The garage is on the corner.
The garage
There's
is on
an
the very
apartment
corner.
further
That
down.
house is split,
that-
right?
Yeah,
On
I think
the-
there's
to
two
the right,
units
I
in
think
there.
there's, around the entry, there's, I think, windows that
But
would
it's
be-
protected by the garage. It's set back from the garage.
I don't remember.
The entry is, and then there's an
Maybe.
apartment on the Mitchell Canyon side.
Mm-hmm.
But its orientation, I think, is somewhat shielded as well.
This is,
Well, if you think that this risk is low, I mean, not opposed to installing a third one at all, that would be fine.
I would love to take a look at, because I do think that coming from Mitchell Canyon, turning right onto Pine Hollow is a
Okay.
frequent stop, and people, like I said, often blow through that. you know,
Okay,
make-
no, happy to put another one in. I was
So
more
let's
concerned about
look
just
and
not
see,
disturbing.
we're looking at an image here.
I mean, you're right. The highest traffic area is coming southbound on Mitchell Canyon, turning on the Pine Hollow.
Right.
Then the other direction in the evenings from Pine Hollow, turning left on the Mitchell Canyon. But then there's also, I think the next, if you were to rank them, the next one up is coming southbound from Mitchell Canyon, because that's a long straightaway.
It is. And there's a number of large
tend to
trucks
drive
that
really
use it in the
fast.
morning. So, I mean, there's, larger vehicles that presumably are going slower, but if one of them blows the intersection, it's, a bigger issue, or it can be a bigger issue just because of the weight and all of the vehicle. But
Okay,
This side is all.
we're happy to look at putting them on more of those legs. That's not a problem, and the signs are not terribly expensive, so
yeah. If
that
we-
would be fine.
If we could look into it, that would be great.
Sure.
Then I do have a couple other questions. So on the third item, so this one, is it a sign that always flashes, that signal ahead, or is it the type of sign that starts flashing when the light is red? So in other words, Ignacio Valley Road has that,
Right.
for example.
We were not going to
power.
have it connected to it. I, for one, unless we can do it with radio interconnection, it's too far away to be able to trench and install interconnect conduit and cable. We don't have the budget to do that.
Okay.
So to begin with, we were planning it to be an independent sign that would flash signal ahead. Would like to be able to put a electric eye on it, which I don't know for sure that we'll be able to afford or not afford, that it could shut down when there isn't traffic, so we're not just spending battery power on it,
Right.
but it sees a vehicle coming and flashes signal ahead, and then, would go out again. Because it's not a constant flow of traffic after dark typically, but those are the folks that seem to blow that signal. So if we can get them as they come by and give them a warning and then shut down until the next one does and conserve the battery, I think that would help it be able to cycle through the whole evening or through the whole night until the morning when the solar would start to recharge it again. So,
Okay. And then one last question regarding timing. So we haven't received the Measure J funds yet, but we'll receive them, I assume, this fiscal year. So
no, we actually have received them already. They are here, and they are, the checks have been deposited, and they have not yet been allocated, though, so the
it's-
money is ready to go.
Okay. So assuming we make a decision to allocate those funds, what do you think is the timing for the construction of the improvements?
If you give us direction tonight, we will make a phone call to the county tomorrow morning to order the two pieces for the signal, and they're probably a 6-week lead time, and then another week or week and a half after delivery for them to be installed, and the county signal maintenance folks install them for us. In the meantime, we've gone through the process to bring on board an on-call striping contractor to use And so the first task order to them would be the striping here at this intersection and the striping that surrounds the intersections at the middle school. I'd have to come back to you for authorization to award and to authorize that task order, the first task order on that on-call contract. I would presume that we'd do that at the next meeting, because it would be, I think we could do it on a consent calendar. And then it would just be a matter of scheduling the striper. I mean, we need to wait for the heads to be installed and the signal cycle to be revamped before we restripe the intersection here. But the restriping at the elementary school, we would go ahead and start it immediately. And then when we get the signs ordered, the interactive stop signs, those can be installed, and actually maintenance will install those for us. So it should be fairly quick turnaround, but the long lead item is going to be the signal boxes for the intersection here at the middle school.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Jeff?
On the elementary school, well, thank you first for doing this. This is great. On the striping at the elementary school, it goes to the edge of the image. I'm assuming that on the upper part of the image, it's going to go to the intersection?
Yes, it would go clear to the, I just couldn't make it
Yeah.
fit the
And then on the other directions to, I guess, to the image right, there's another stop sign over there. So
that's
it'll
correct.
probably
There-
go out to,
the intersection with the
Yeah.
street that goes into the
Zion.
elementary school itself. So we would complete the striping and all of that, and then going Pine Hollow Road, I would propose that we go out all the way to Concord. Yeah, I'm trying to think of the name of the street, and it just escapes me at the
well, I
moment.
mean, the
To
city
Mount
limits
Zion?
is like, well, you're talking left, but on the right, are you saying go to the intersection and then stop, or go to the intersection and then take a left and go out on Mount Zion in front of the school?
I can't remember how much striping is on Mount Zion.
They redid it last summer.
I think it's in good shape, and I don't think there's much there. So
fine.
my proposal, my estimate was to go to Mount Zion and actually go beyond Mount Zion to go down to the little parking lot at the turnaround, so that the folks that were going down there and using that as a turnaround for pickup, it would be distinct for them to follow as well.
That's actually been striped when the front of the school was, and it's in 3 lanes now to follow the turn lanes and stuff, the way the traffic management plan was put together. But I
Correct.
think, Jeff, you were asking about toward the city limits to the west?
Well, yeah, I'm just curious in all directions, basically. So I guess we would probably go to city limits to the left,
Yes.
and then north, but it's down.
Yeah. No, south.
South
South is down.
on Mitchell Canyon, we would go
Well, in this image, that's...
South is down.
South is down, yeah. Going south on Mitchell Canyon, we would definitely pick up all of the leader lines into the intersection. I don't know how much further beyond that it's really
Okay, I'm just curious.
pertinent
That's
for us to go, but we definitely look at it, because
The only other item that I had was, I echo your comment about the other direction for the interactive sign, so I think that's good to look at. On the signal ahead sign, I guess I was under the impression that we would look at the connected sign that was similar to the one that's at Cowell and Unedited Valley. Do you know what I'm talking about there?
Yes, yes.
That one is really useful because you're traveling, I think the speed limit there is 55, and it helps you come to a stop. The speed limit here is 45. It's a little slower, but it's still pretty quick around this curve. What is the possibility of an interactive signal? You said cabling, power, and signal. From this direction, traveling eastbound, I think you mentioned that at dusk you have a greater issue. But I would say in the mornings, during commute hours, coming westbound, the commute hours kind of intersect school hours. So, plus I would think that you'd have more access to power facilities here, maybe at either in the dog park area or somewhere at the school, which would assist. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but I would love to see both directions with interactive, but if we had to pick, and if we could pick interactive on one, I would pick the other way. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
you would pick eastbound or westbound?
Got to get in the map.
Westbound.
Westbound. just because that coincides with
Commute traffic.
traffic and school at the same time, versus in the evening, I think you're getting mostly probably pedestrian walkers versus on the commute hours.
But that's where
Those
the
have
close
been the
calls
two-
have
That's
been.
where, yeah, that is true. That is where I think we've had indication of folks having close calls. Both directions are better. But if we could get one that's interactive only and it's the other way, then that would be pretty cool if that's a possibility. I don't know what it takes to do that.
Okay, so what I'm proposing here
This is not a interactive
just the
one.
one
Yeah.
sign eastbound.
Yes.
We'd have to come up with additional funding if we were to put in two. And, but that's very possible to do. We
What's-
just don't have the funding for both in this, unless we move something around, which is
What's-
possible to do too.
What's the feasibility of an interactive sign?
I'd have to get back to you on that. I don't know, right off the top of my head. There's line of sight that you can use. I don't know whether there's enough
Because you could put it in
Signal
you could
strength
put it
that
in the median.
could generate to do that. This sign would go on the right-hand side
Okay.
of the road under the MUTCD. They don't want it in the middle, in the center median. But I don't know how strong of a signal you could get between the controller cabinet and this sign line of sight to be able to have a consistent and interconnection
Yeah.
with it. But definitely something we could look at.
I mean, I think you get a lot more value out of a sign like that rather than one that's, flashing every time you pass, because it doesn't convey a lot of information that way if it's always going to go whether it's green or not. I think you convey a lot less information, especially for folks who travel the corridor on a regular basis. It becomes kind of background noise.
One of the issues that I think we need to be aware of and take just into consideration as a part of the decision is there is a certain liability that goes along with that type of a signal if for some reason it doesn't come on and there's a red cycle and the person blows the cycle. Blows the red light, they do have the possibility of coming back and saying, hey, your system malfunctioned. It's not my fault, it's your fault. And I think we need to, just take that into consideration as a part of the decision, as something that's, okay, that's a part of the risk. How do we manage it, mitigate it, or do we just accept it? It's not, it's not
Are you
lion's
aware-
share of it, but it is there that you should be, I need to make you aware of that as a part of your decision process.
Are you aware of if that's ever transpired?
Yeah.
Like-
Yes, it has.
Like, is there, I'm curious because I love to read about this stuff, so.
What's that? Yeah, I would say your best bet would maybe to get from risk management. I mean, I don't have that off the top of my head. Certainly not something that I memorize, so to speak. But I know that is an issue, and when we've spoken about this previously and discussed the lights at the top of Ignacio, that was one of the items that was brought up as, this is a potential you need to take into consideration. So, not saying it's not a good idea, just it's part of the decision.
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of odd to place the potential risk of failure ahead of the absolute positive increase to safety that you would have.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd be curious to see what the fact pattern was. I think that's all the questions I have.
Okay. CW?
Okay, will we need, ahead of all of these changes, will we need signs where we are making changes in striping? Will there be some kind of a lead time for drivers to get used to the changes?
No, there's really no difference in the striping. It's just renewing it. It will
But for
become
instance,
visible again.
Even on the crosswalk where we're doing the
Yeah.
scattered.
The way the cycle, the way the cycle is set up right now, it technically is set up with a pedestrian cycle, and it's an unadvertised scramble cycle because we don't allow it to function that way. But the striping, aside from the diagonal crosswalk, is the only change that will be visibly there. The rest of it will operate just like it is, except for you will not allow right turns. All of those will be shut down so that there's no vehicle entering that box at the time the pedestrians are allowed to, to use the scrambled piece of it. So that's the only change to the vehicles, is there'll be, that no right turn. So.
What is if we were to put in the interactive signs near the residences on Pine Hollow, I guess that is, what is the recourse if we put them in and then we get complaints?
Just take them back out and put a standard sign back up. It's just pretty easy to change.
Okay. And then is there any training going to be available, for instance, for the kids that are going to be crossing in the scattered fashion with regard to, do we have to have the chief or the police or somebody go out and do something with the schools so the kids realize that is the only place they're supposed to be crossing in that way? Or
We'll definitely interact with the principal or the administration at the school and provide them with information so that they can disseminate it to the kids, but would be something that the school would help or pass off to the children, to the students.
Good. And I agree. I think we need the interactive signs in both directions. I think in both locations that we were talking about today, I think it's better to err on that side than to sacrifice the safety. So that's it for me.
Jim?
Good report, Scott, and I think it'll address some of the issues there. Help me understand, is the scramble phase automatic or is it initiated by the pedestrians?
It will be initiated by the pedestrians.
Okay.
So when they come up and they push a ped button.
That's what I was after. Okay.
But then it just shuts
so
everybody else
something
down.
that will, it won't send somebody there. Somebody's actually got to activate it.
Yes, they'll activate it. So if there's nobody there during the middle of the day while the kids are in session,
Right.
it won't just automatically go through that fifth cycle.
Gotcha.
It'll
Gotcha.
ignore it.
Good. You answered my question. Thank you.
All right. I did have a couple of questions before we go to public comment, and after public comment, we'll bring it back for a decision here. You sort of answered my questions about the Pine Hollow and Mitchell Canyon intersection. That one, I agree with the others that it needs to be all four ways. It needs to be four ways, not three ways. Living in that neighborhood, we see it at all times of day. And you have to remember, we do not have streetlights in that part of town. So at night, this time of year, it's very, very dark. If it's raining, it's even darker.
Sure. Okay.
And frequently, the heavy cover on the corner, that would be the northwest corner, where the southbound sign, or the sign facing the southbound travelers would be, the trees there need to be trimmed more regularly because they very frequently hang down so that if you are approaching that stop sign, you don't see it until you're about 20 feet away.
Okay.
I think the same
Right
is true
now.
on eastbound too.
We'll
Like,
look at all
it's-
four legs.
It's also hard to see that one.
Yeah, but it doesn't have, not the eastbound. Well, that doesn't have trees in front of it. It's just dark.
Yeah.
But this one actually has trees blocking the sign as it is now. And more than once, even I who live there have had a hard time seeing it when it's really dark and wet.
Okay.
So I agree that we really need that flashing sign. So the question is there a shield that can go around the side facing the residents so that it's still visible from straight on, but the glare doesn't bounce to the side? I don't know. I haven't seen it that way, but we can shield everything else. There must be a way.
There isn't anything that's been advertised,
Okay.
but I know a guy that works in the courtyard that's pretty handy with sheet metal, and I'm sure we could put
If we
something
get
together.
a complaint. But it occurs to me that might be a possibility to focus it so that it's straight on. They do that with street lamps all the time.
Sure, sure.
It seems like that might be a possibility. And when we go to the, and I note I did say all 4 directions, not just 3.
Correct.
The timing for the cycle at the scramble, do we know how long we need that walk cycle to be so that the drivers don't start getting antsy? Most of the people using that are going to be young enough that they're fairly quick, but we have to go by distance and probably handicap standards.
Correct. And Lynn will be able to set that up based on the length of diagonal and you're right, the pace that is, we have to take into account a potential ADA
Right.
person in a chair or
So it could be a minute
ambulatory.
long, easy.
So it would be long enough to allow them to cross, even though the majority of these kids are, middle schoolers will go across it in seconds.
Right.
But we do have to account for that possibility of allowing an ADA person to make
Okay.
the trek.
Now, many of these, the flashing stop signs are interactive. Or
Correct.
can have a motion sensor on them.
Correct. We're planning for those.
So for the light that is the advance warning sign by the middle school in both directions, can those also have a motion sensor?
Yeah, that was the initial plan, was that
Okay.
it would only pick
That
up
wasn't noted here, so.
vehicles that it wouldn't flash all the time. It would pick up a vehicle, come on, give its notice, and then go back off while there's no traffic.
Okay. The other question is, on the eastbound one, there's a row of redwoods there planted behind the homes in Easley. And I believe they're behind the homes in Bridlewood, but I don't remember for sure. So given the direction of the sun, is it going to have long enough daylight to get solar fully charged?
We'll have to work with the company, the provider, as far as the size of the solar panel and the type of solar panel to be able to know that. That is
Okay.
yet to be determined, but we are proposing a location, but that will be somewhat flexible because we need to be able to maximize the sun time or the
Right.
power
But
generation
that southwest
time.
direction could be very, very shaded at that spot.
It can be, and it's something we need to work with.
Yeah,
But until we get
okay.
out there with a company, I would just be guessing, so.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe the PD can keep an eye on where the shade is at what hour of the day, I don't know.
No, we'll-
They're out there all the time, so maybe. Let's see, the training for students, the Transpac TSM program may have a program that their Street Smarts program could very well incorporate that into a program for the students.
Sure.
If they want to. I think that answers my questions. So let's go to public comment, and Rebecca Nolan. Welcome.
Excuse me, I'm not a good public speaker, so.
You're fine.
Forgive me if I start shaking.
We're just your neighbors, just talk to us.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council, and thank you, City Engineer, you did a great job. I appreciate your report.
Thank you.
I kind of agree with Jeff Wan. I would like to see the red flashing light, but I understand that the funds aren't there for that yet. I am more than happy to accept any sign you can put in there. It's not just close calls. I've seen accidents. It's not just close calls. Even though the close calls were my children,
Right.
It's not just close calls. There are accidents, and something has to go in quickly. And I know you can't, people are just stupid sometimes, and they're going to run the red light anyways, no matter what you put there. But I think we need to take some action quick and move along with it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Mayor, can I get a clarification on the location for the public comment? Are you talking about the
The advance warning
okay,
sign.
on the one that's not shown on here that Jeff Wan was referring to?
No, it's where the arrow is, that one.
Oh, that one.
I want
Yeah,
that
that's
one.
eastbound.
Okay, perfect.
I agree there needs to be one on both sides.
Thank you.
I'll fill out a card, but can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Sure, we'll let you make a comment. Come on up, Dan.
I'm Dan Homer, I live in Stranahan. As far as this particular slide right here, can you install the stop signal ahead in the median because you're actually kind of looking at the curve, right? So if you install it on the median, at that point, can you get a line of sight versus on the blind curve? I don't know if that's legal to put that in the median, just as a thought if you wanted to do that line of sight thing because with the radio waves and stuff like that. And then the other one, as far as for the Pine Hollow and Mitchell Canyon intersection with the flashing lights, I know they don't just hand those out, but can you do like a rent-to-own type of thing? Because you don't, if you get like a bunch of pushback from the residents right there that it's constantly driving them nuts, and we don't have another place to put those, can you do a thing where you say, do you have anything that's rentable type of thing? Just a thought.
Yeah, typically the sign manufacturers will not lease own. They will sell it to you, but they want you to take the risk. So, we could look into see what type of a program might be available, but honestly, I'm not optimistic about that.
Oh.
And the forewarning sign here, I'll talk with Lynn and ask her. I was under the impression that there was a prohibition about putting it in the median, but I'll ask her to make sure, because if not, part of the problem with in the median, and not to say it's, I understand and I think it's a good idea, but we have trouble with the trees there as well.
Oh, okay.
And so that may preclude it, but we'll look at it and see, because if that's a smarter mousetrap, we'll use it.
Because then what happens also, then it's not shaded by those redwoods either. You do have some trees in the
Yeah,
median, but they're
that's
not
true.
the large redwoods, and it's out in more in the sun area
Correct,
there.
correct. So,
Thanks,
yeah,
Dan.
we'll look at it and see.
Thank you both. And if there are no other public comments on this item, I just wrote it in, Dan, I added it to your existing card. Janet will understand. So I'm going to bring it back up here for direction. And I just want to clarify, Rebecca, you mentioned the both directions. I think you heard from me, you heard from Jeff, you heard from Tuya, and I think all of us actually, that both ways by the school, I think really merit, because a lot of those commuters are coming in very early in the morning, and they are flying. We know that. The one caution I would have to the city engineer on the placement for that is try to get it before it's flashing into the eyes of the people on Marsh Creek Circle.
But I don't care, I'll take it.
No. But we have a few folks at the very end of the circle that are rather particular. That's the diplomatic way of putting it. And I hear about every little bright light, somebody doesn't dim their lights, somebody's bush died, and the barrier has stopped working. So if we can get it even a little further, because those folks are coming faster, frankly. They're still going the 55 to 60
going
that they've
fast,
come
yeah.
in on Marsh Creek. And so they're blowing right into town. So a light that's motion activated, before you get that far, it would probably be closer to where the school zone, no, probably not that far. Probably the edge of the school property, or maybe by Jim Court, somewhere around there.
MUTCD, I think, says it has to be a minimum of 500 feet, I believe it was. And
Yeah.
that's, measuring with Google Maps, that's
Sure.
as close as we get that. But I think if you did move it back, as you can see behind the last house on the cul-de-sac,
Right.
there's a little trail
Yeah.
in there. If we could put it back that far, that probably would alleviate the problem with the folks at the end of the cul-de-sac,
Think so, too.
and give a little bit more lead time for folks driving eastbound if they are going 50, 55 miles an hour.
That would
Though-
be pretty much
though-
behind the library building. Isn't that the library building, the smaller one that's parallel? I think so, at the school.
Oh, at the school.
So, anyway, but yeah, I think that would, it's in between the first pod and the second
Oh,
big pod.
I'm sorry, I was thinking about the one eastbound. I was talking about the one at the top. Okay, I get what you're saying.
No, the one going westbound is the one I'm concerned about with the reflection into Marsh Creek Circle.
Okay.
So we need to get just beyond that, and I think that works. It's sort of halfway along the school
Okay.
area, and because it's facing east, it wouldn't be flashing into their windows, nor should it be into anybody else's, so it should be okay there.
And the sign will have to be tangent to that curve.
Right.
And probably a little bit more than just tangent to the curve to make it be visible. So that'll push it even further away from the windows of the,
Right.
of the other folks. So
Right.
we'll make it fit where it's not obtrusive.
Yeah, okay, that works. And I think we made all our suggestions to you. Does someone have a list? Jeff?
Oh, I forgot to add, even when we're talking about median installation, if you're going to be checking on that with Lynn, when you're traveling eastbound, you could even put it on the other side of the road. The other traffic signal right now, when you're traveling eastbound, is on the other side of the road because that's the only place that you could see it. So if you need line of sight, I think you have flexibility. Well, if you need line of sight and you have flexibility to do that, then that could be available as well, traveling eastbound. And, you know, I guess I don't know, if we're talking about at the same time as a school zone, what are we buying if it's co-located with the school zone flashing sign? Will be a similar flashing sign?
It will be similar. It won't be identical, and it
It'll be
won't.
red, wouldn't it?
No, it'll be
No.
No, it
yellow.
can't
Okay,
be
yeah,
red,
that's
right?
Yeah, it'll be yellow.
And it won't
Yeah.
be co-located with that. The school zone sign is quite a bit further
That's
to the
1,000
west.
feet, I think.
Yeah.
So this will be halfway, possibly, plus or minus,
I guess-
between that school zone sign and the intersection.
I guess my point is, if we already will have a school zone flashing sign that does, it's not all the time, but it's just during the school hours, right? I'm not sure if spending the money on this precludes us from spending more money on a more interactive sign that times it with the light. Timing with the light is what is most important, I think, because that's when pedestrians will cross. If you have it all the time and then it is in a close proximity to the school zone sign, you'll have two signs that are essentially doing the same thing. I'm not sure if you're buying a lot, if that precludes us from doing something else. If it doesn't, you can do both, then cool, but funds are limited, and I don't know what the cost of the other sign is, or even if it's even feasible. If you're saying that this sign costs $11,000, and we can do it now versus, I don't know, if you make up a number, $20,000.
I was going to make up the number $15,000, so I mean,
Okay.
I think that's
So then you
fairly-
do $15,000 and you put it in a place that actually works. I don't know if the 11,000 spent is sunk and you can't recover any of it, or if it's really just a delta. I don't know where the cost comes in, but I'd hate to pick one now. If not, we could wait or get a better location to make it work and then have something that I think has a lot more value.
I think the biggest decision is whether you have radio connectivity or not. Because if you can get a radio signal from the traffic light to the activated sign, that's one thing. If you can't and you have to trench, then it's a whole nother number.
Yeah, that's not the same.
Yeah, the 15 that I was suggesting was radio interconnection, not trenching. The trenching would be considerably higher than that.
Julia?
But I do think there's a distinction. So when you see a school sign, in your mind, you only pay attention to that if you think the school is in session. You know,
The speed limit drops to 25,
no,
right?
I know, but when I see a school sign flashing when I'm driving on the road at 9 p.m., an average rider boy doesn't pay any attention to school sign because they know kids are not at school at 9 p.m. But I think the sign that you're talking about with the signal head is not on all the time, but it would have the motion sensor eye, so in other words, it's dark, and then when the car is approaching, it starts blinking. So I think it does
It
cause
will
the
do
driver
something,
to
yes, for sure.
attention.
It will do something.
Yeah.
But to the driver, it will almost appear as if it's on all the time because they'll only see it when they're driving. So to the driver, it's largely, I don't know, it depends how much distance it
The
is.
stop signs you can
Yeah.
see start to blink. You
Yeah,
can
the
tell
stop
that
signs,
they're
yeah,
dark.
yeah, you can
and
tell
then they
those.
blink as you're approaching them. I would assume
That's
this would
true.
be similar to that.
I do think we need one on the eastbound, because, I mean, if you're on westbound in the morning, I do get it. I think it would be helpful, but the drivers who come off Marsh Creek Road, they will already have stopped at
Regency?
Regency, which is the street I
Theoretically.
drive, I should
I
know.
mean,
Unless they've blown through that
Well,
one
I mean,
too.
here they
But they will
would've-
have already
yeah.
done one stop, and then it's only so anyway, I do think we need one on the westbound.
That's the two that we're talking
No, I mean, I'd take both, and I would take both that are interactive. I mean, I think that is the superior choice if it's available.
And if we have the funds already, it means one street might not have a crack seal on it this season in lieu of getting a really nice traffic safety sign.
I mean,
You know.
if it's $11,000 or 15-ish,
Yeah. That's not very many feet of chip seal.
I would venture for both, and then I don't know if you could repurpose that funds, because you're talking about installation of a sign, the actual sign, then is the delta just the cost of this transmitter and then the whatever electronics are required?
Yes, and that's just a guess.
Yeah.
So
Well, we can get more information on that before we do any allocation.
I'm going to scare the city manager to death here, but if you'll trust me with some of the gas tax funds that we have, now we're looking at just the Measure J funds. If you wanted to install a westbound sign and look at what it would take to make them interactive with the signal, if you trust me with some of our gas tax funding, which we have some, and we can augment this with that, then we can push forward and do that. I mean, it would take your direction to say, use the funds, do that with it. I think we have funds that would be available that we could make use that way and not hamper ourselves on our other obligations to maintain the pavement. So, I mean, that is definitely an option to look at, because to add that second sign would, be another $15,000. But that's not a huge amount of money when you're looking at public safety.
And we can't make the allocation tonight anyway. Our decision is to give direction, and you would have to come back with a request for the allocation and show where it's coming from and have harder numbers and all of that. So we can give direction tonight for you to gather that information and bring that back with our options of where to spend it. But I think you're hearing, at least from this side of the table, absolutely both directions at the middle school, figure out which locations are the best, what the delta is between the constantly flashing or just motion-activated sign and with an interactive sign that goes with the signal that would be radio-controlled.
I don't want to be left out
Yeah,
on this
no,
side
I
of the
was going to
table.
say, I was just going to ask.
I don't want to speak for Jim, but I think we're
I think we're
moving
united on this
direction.
one, right?
Join me.
Well, this will be
Any-
the end of the table then.
Any dissent on that direction?
No, I think your direction is clear.
Okay, and the direction for the grade school would be all four
Yes.
ways?
Yeah,
and-
the only way that you could potentially sacrifice is this way, because that has the least amount of traffic, but all 4 ways is better.
But they're all fleeing at one time,
Yeah.
and at night, and no.
That's fine. I think all 4 ways is better.
Yeah, I think so too. And if we have to put a shield on one side to keep it out of somebody's
Yes.
eyes, then we can do that. But I really think you're probably going to be okay. If they're motion activated, they're not going to be flashing all the time.
No,
So
they-
when there's nobody there, it's not a big deal.
Right.
The only one that I actually think you would be more likely to be able to sacrifice is the one coming from the quarry, because those truck drivers all know where that stop sign is, because they got to stop half a block back. And as an aside, there is a sinkhole about less than 100 feet before they get to that stop sign, and it's getting worse. It's like this deep.
Yeah, thank you to the trucks that
Well,
have been causing that.
partly, but the rest of the road isn't sinking. It's just, it's not a pothole, it's a sinkhole.
It's a sinkhole.
So, and it's nasty. So, anyway, when we have a chance.
Well, we'll correct that with the 2020 Neighborhood Streets program that's coming, because we'll have guys out there doing that kind of work. So
Exactly.
it makes sense to do it.
Okay, and as far as the one on Marsh Creek Road, do any of us have a problem with both directions on Marsh Creek Road?
No.
No,
Does anyone feel like there's a need for a 4-way there?
This
No.
is this one, right?
Yeah,
The
that's just the
downtown.
Marsh Creek Road through direction,
No,
nothing on Center Street.
I would take the police staff's recommendation and do those two.
I think so.
I would concur.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, for the other one, I mean, just if we're giving direction, I would say both directions. Interactive sign is, if I were to prioritize, that would be the top priority.
Let's give direction for both ways at the middle school, all 4 ways at the elementary school, plus the Marsh Creek ones, and you figure out what the options are cost-wise for motion activated versus synchronized with the signal. Bring all that back to us and figure out where the money's going to come from, and we'll deal with allocating it. The sooner the better.
Sounds good.
Yeah, expedite
sound
that
good?
process.
Yeah, that sounds great. I do want to make one other comment. This is an item we've discussed at the council a couple times, and it's very easy for any of our council members to take credit on any of this stuff, but I really want to give credit where it's due on this particular item, and I think it's to our residents and to our staff. So I think the report we got tonight is excellent, so thank you very much to staff. And then I want to thank our residents. I know, Rebecca, you've spoken about the single ahead sign for some time. I've had some residents, the minute the signs went up near Pine Hollow Middle School, the interactive flash signs, we had residents talking about the same in here.
Yep.
So our residents are the eyes and ears in our community and often see these things quicker than we do. So I want to give credit to our residents for this as
The
well.
day that one went up by Highlands and Pine Hollow, I was, yes, we have to have them too. The only thing I would wish we could have is a 3-way at Mount Zion in Pine Hollow, but that's only because I try to get in and out of there. I know better than to do it during school hours. Okay, is that sufficient direction? Do you need a motion for that direction? I think you've heard us pretty loud and clear.
No, we have plenty of direction. That's great.
Okay.
And we'll return as quickly as I can with the request for an action to put this all together.
Okay, very good. All righty. We will go back to the agenda, and we are on to item 8B, which is the forming a new utility undergrounding district to be able to retain our Rule 20A PG&E funds. And you're up again, Scott.
Yes, thank you. So we have been given a second bite at the apple, so to speak. PG&E has been requested by another city in Northern California for additional 20A, Rule 20A, the undergrounding credits. The city did not have enough credits to do their project. They've gone through a process asking for additional credits, and the CPUC, Public Utilities Commission, came back and said, no, we're not going to allocate more credits to you. We're going to reallocate existing credits. And all of those cities within the PG&E Rule 20A area that are inactive, we're going to take whatever we need, and we'll take it proportionately from each of these cities and give it to the city that wanted additional. They went through a process of taking out, giving people opportunity to become active. On the first go-around, we missed the deadline. It was a small amount of credits, and it became a lower priority. Lo and behold, PG&E made a mistake in their process, so they had to start over, which gave us another bite at the apple. We're not missing it this time. So we are asking you to establish an underground district that is on Marsh Creek Road. We selected this strategically, and for one reason that will make you laugh or maybe cry, depending on how you look at it. We gather credits into this program very slowly. It's $1 per credit. So we get $20,000 credits per year. We've gathered so far 361,440 credits that we have in the credit bank with PG&E. And to do an underground project, on an average, you spend $1,200 or 1,200 credits per linear foot. So we literally had to find a block that we could define within the city between two streets that was small enough that we could feasibly do a project in a roughly 10-year period. Because if it takes longer than that, PG&E will say this is infeasible, we're not going to accept it. So based on the number of credits that we have, our ability to garner in 5 years, an additional 100,000 credits. And then in this program, you can borrow ahead for a 5-year period. So that would give us another 100,000 credits on credit. And that would give us roughly enough to underground the block that runs between High Street here and the entrance to Stranahan there. So that little block is basically our Rule 20A project. Now, we're not tied to this. This is not cast in cement, carved in stone, whatever. But we had to be able to produce a feasible project that could be accomplished in a 10-year window. That's the project that PG&E would accept, and then by accepting that and by establishing this district, that makes us active in the 20A program, and it preserves our credits. We won't lose any of those. We don't have to do the construction. We don't have to actually spend any of those credits. Just taking this action tonight makes us active. At the same time, we proposed that this area surrounding Marsh Creek Road would become an underground district, because to be a 20A project, you have to be within an undergrounding district. And the district has to be large enough to actually make a difference as far as undergrounding. And there are several parameters that the program requires, and they have to do with potential scenic issues and improving those. Has to be adjacent to an undergrounded already location. It can't be a one-off that's off by itself. So this area made sense because it's adjacent to downtown, which is undergrounded. Beyond this is undergrounded. So it's a segment that makes sense, meets the requirements of the PG&E program, and contained that little project that we could actually do. So we created this to meet those requirements of PG&E and the 20A program, just to be able to preserve our credits and prove to PG&E that we're active. So there's no ulterior motive here. This is what fit for what we needed to do. It was purely strategy.
Okay. Questions? Jim, anything?
What's the length of the value of the credit? How long can we keep it? Is it going on forever, or do we have to take some action at some point?
So Cindy Mickelson is here from Harris, and she's an expert in Rule 20A. So Cindy, is there a sunset on this? I don't believe there is, but I don't know for sure.
Come to the mic, Cindy.
Yeah.
Thank you. There isn't currently a sunset. That said, on Thursday, the CPUC issued a proposal as a result of an audit that was conducted against PG&E. And in that, they're proposing to eliminate the program in 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. And substitute it with, there's Rule 20A, B, C, and D. It's just how the projects get paid for. This one, A, is paid for using these credits like frequent flyer miles. B is used often by developers, as a condition of development. C is just private little ones, and D was fire suppression only in San Diego territory. So what the proposal is that they eliminate A and do 20B projects, and instead of giving out credits, they'll do a grant up to 50% of the project cost. So even if you adopt this and only do that little section, there's a chance that even though you'd probably never have enough credits to do the rest, that you'd qualify then for one of the grants they're offering later. And they're rewarding communities, or propose to reward communities that establish a fund, a taxation of your residents to do these things and do a partial payment to them, and they grant the rest of it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's on the agenda for them.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? CW, Jeff?
How far is this again? Sorry.
What's that distance, Scott?
Oh, gosh, I didn't measure it in feet. I was just using the streets. It stretches from High Street up to El Molino, because at El Molino, it goes back under again.
It's not quite a mile. It's,
Oh, it's far less than a mile.
yeah, it's like
Far less. It's probably not much
3,800
more than a
feet.
quarter of a mile.
the portion that we were talking about for 20A is like 481 feet.
Yeah.
And even
Yeah, it's
that's,
not very far.
that's going to be a stretch for 10 years of our 20A money.
Right.
It is. You don't
It'd be a stretch.
technically have enough for it, but
Right.
there's no reason you can't, I mean, if you said you wanted that whole thing done, there's no reason Clayton couldn't, I mean, you could do the 20A portion now for your resolution to
Right.
protect you, but there's no reason Clayton couldn't say, this is a reasonable district, and we'd like other communities that aren't using their funds to give it to us, just like Lone Pine did.
Just like we almost lost ours. Huh?
Exactly.
So this is 3,700-ish
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah, at that 38.
So our current credit yields us 235 feet. So we would need
At 1,200 a foot,
3,700.
a couple million. I'm sure they'd love to chip in.
3,700 feet? That doesn't look, I don't,
We
I
wouldn't-
have to question that.
I'm
I
just
got
us-
the same numbers.
I'm just using Google. We would have to increase our bank, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Credits
Our credit bank.
by over 15 times.
You would have to, yes.
So that's,
and that
and we
would-
get 20,000 per, and we have
Per year.
382,000. So that's
Several million.
5.
That's
50,
problematic.
5 times 6, 30. So we would need whatever 30 times 15 is. What's that?
450?
450 years.
That's about
It
right,
won't-
correct.
What
I don't
you
think
would
we're going to do that.
No, you won't.
You would work with the liaison that PG&E has and request that the entire project be looked at for funding, and they would say you don't have enough, and you'd say, well, then we'd like to do what Lone Pine did.
And borrow
And-
from somebody else's.
And they don't borrow it, it's a gift to you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's taken right from their unspent allocations.
So by looking at a
Thinking.
district
More
that's
like
this
45
large,
years.
it gives us
45
opportunity.
years.
Yeah.
But it
No.
doesn't tie us down, doesn't make us commit anything. Gives us opportunity
You
to
know what?
potentially work.
All we're doing is making sure we get to collect it, nobody else can take it.
That's correct.
Right.
Well, and it preserves this area too, so that if somebody were to say, I want to widen the road and do something, you do have to underground, because now it is an underground district.
Okay. Any other questions? Do you have any questions?
None.
Okay. It's a mechanism to make sure the money doesn't go to somebody else.
That's correct.
Wait, so you mentioned, you just said in your last comment, so it makes it an underground district. So that means that, what, any future thing here needs to be
Anything
underground?
not in the pipeline already would have to underground.
So if somebody bought 10 of these homes and said, I'm going to tear them down and build a shopping center, they have to underground as a condition of their permit.
All right, so, thank you.
All right. The action here, we have Dan Hummer wants to speak about this.
I am Dan Hummer. So I obviously live over in Stranahan, so I just had a couple questions when you were conversing with PG&E. Did they, approximately how long would it be before that you'd actually begin this? I guess that was actually already kind of answered. It's not, you're just
Might be
basically out.
forever.
What's that?
Might be forever.
Might be forever.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, and then if you were actually go forward with it, did they say on how long it actually would take to actually do that section of road as far as the duration of time that they would be ripping up the street and doing their construction?
I would say the 28 projects I've been involved with before in other jurisdictions, they do not move quickly. Typically, I've seen them sit in queue for 5 years, waiting by the time you declare this is the project I want to do. And it takes more than what we're doing here tonight to actually make application. You'll sit for 5 years waiting because these credits, they need to be backed by cash. And so the cash is accumulated, on an annual basis. So that's not cash readily available. You got approximately a 5-year queue that you'll wait in. And then I would say a project at this magnitude, 400 feet, it might take 6 months for them. That won't be 6 months of construction, but by the time you go through the planning stage and they do the design and all, it could easily be 6 months, or it might even be longer than that from start to finish. I would guess construction, 400 feet, 3 months. It is not a quick process.
Okay, that's good now. All right, appreciate that.
Yep.
Don't worry about it happening anytime soon, Dan.
Gray hair by then.
Yeah, you might. You might. All right, so this requires an action. We have to adopt a resolution. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We are on to item 8C.
May I compliment the city engineer that the planners downtown are really moving along very well. Thank you, sir.
Great, thank you.
Everyone wants to know when they're going to be done. What?
Before Art and Wine.
Good.
That's good. That's good.
Give people a chance to stumble into them.
Okay. It gives us a place to sit during Art and Wine. That's really important. Okay. The next item is to discuss and consider adopting a resolution affirming and clarifying the duties and responsibilities of the Trails and Landscape Committee. And we have a report from Laura Hoffmeister, our assistant to the city manager.
Thank you very much. I think the title's pretty self-explanatory. Just to highlight some of the information in the background of your staff report. This item was asked to be brought forward to the City Council at one of your prior meetings by Council Member, now Vice Mayor Juan. And it was to go over, basically, as I understood the direction, the resolution that was last enacted by the Council 1 year ago this month that clarified the duties and responsibilities to the Trails and Landscaping Committee. And Vice Mayor Juan wanted to bring that document back forward and have council discussion and review of that this evening. We've placed it on your agenda. In going over the report and listening to the minutes of the meeting, actually, of the time when the Vice Mayor brought it up, he had made a statement, and I went back and checked the record, and he said, well, what's confusing is that this is about 1997-1, CFD 1997-1, and that doesn't exist anymore. And I thought that maybe he misspoke, and I went back and looked at the actual resolution wording, and lo and behold, when we put it together last year for the council, we inadvertently used the 1997-1 CFD throughout that resolution, both in the title and in the recitals. And the CFD 1997-1 did sunset and was replaced by CFD 2007-1, which was then renewed by the voters in 2016 for another 10 years. So the correct CFD title, of which the Trails and Landscaping Committee, serving as the Oversight Committee, should be for 2007-1. So I did include in your packet an updated resolution that, should the council want to make changes to it or take action, at least corrects that particular oversight and error so that we're all on the same page as to what CFD, this body, is overseeing. Most of the discussion, I think, that came about for that meeting last year was related to commentary and comments and questions by the TLC members between 2016 to 2018, where they had different viewpoints as to what the word oversight meant in the ballot measure for Measure H. And going back, and it's attached in your packet, is the language for Measure H. The prior ballot measures did not use the word oversight committee, did not have that in the ballot measure. That was something that was recommended by the TLC when the ballot measure was being put forth, recommended to the City Council, and the City Council included that language in the ballot measure that went before the voters. And as it says, that the 2007-1 Trails and Landscaping Maintenance District be continued with the Citizens Oversight Committee for the 10 years, etc. There's no other language in the ballot measure unless, and what additional clarity was provided at the time it went to the election was the argument in favor of Measure H in Attachment 7. I think it's the last page in your packet. It talks about it included establishing a Trails and Landscaping Committee, and they were referring to the 2007 tax, the one that was the new one put before the voters, that it comprised of Clayton volunteers appointed by the City Council to ensure continued community input. That's as much as was provided to the voters in 2016. The issues then came up, like I said, for a couple of years with the Trails and Landscaping Committee, and at one of the meetings, then Councilmember Liaison Keith Hayden attended and brought back then to the City Council for an agendized item to discuss what is the roles and responsibilities of the Oversight Committee, the Trails and Landscaping Committee, serving and specifying really what does oversight mean. And that's where the resolution a year ago was put together. The council had discussion about this matter in January, and then we came back at a subsequent meeting with the actual resolution, which has the variety of items it listed out in your packet here, and that was resolution number, oh my gosh, it's back here. No, that's the new one. I got to find the old one.
2018?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, 2018.
That's the one we're correcting.
That's the one that we would correct tonight. I mean, I've only made changes in terms of the correct CFD number. If the council wants to make any other changes, certainly you're welcome to do so. But that was the resolution that the council put forth to clarify the responsibilities of what is meant by the word oversight of the Trails and Landscaping Committee, which serves as the Oversight Committee. That was the term that is used. And then the other complicating matter is that this document actually references, still including the prior resolutions, which had about 8 items of the original Trails and Landscaping Committee. So you have to read both of them together to get the full sense of responsibilities. I would suggest if the council wants to direct staff to make changes to a resolution, one of the things you might want to consider is taking the items from the prior resolution that had the 8 items and including it all into one document. Right now you have to read both resolutions to see the full context of what the council has so far established, the roles and responsibilities of the Trails and Landscaping Committee. The resolution that we had done a year ago has a category called responsibilities of the committee, purpose of the committee, then responsibilities of the committee. When you go through it, it was kind of a laundry list. It wasn't organized in any way, shape, or form to pull out what was staff and what was the TLC. It was a commentary from the councils to what direction they wanted to put in it, so we captured those items. So there are some in the resolution that specifically clarifies what staff does. There are other items that specifically is focused on the TLC, and there are other items that are specifically regarding the city council's function. And so it wasn't broken out. It was just a laundry list of all the items that the council wanted to make sure was included in that. So tonight this is before you for your review, discussion, and direction to staff, whether you want to adopt what's in there tonight that I've put forward with any changes. You're welcome to do that as well. So that's pretty much the extent of my background and commentary on this. This evening it's really for the council to review and provide a comment and direction or decision to staff, and we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Jeff, you're the one that asked for this to come back. Why
Sure.
don't you kick it off?
Sure. So, yeah, the reason why I asked was because, just to clarify the timeline, I think there were 3 times this went to the voters, or, right, 97, 2007, and
Right.
again in 2016?
Technically
times.
4, because 1 didn't pass.
Yeah, in 1990.
3 successful times?
Yes.
Sure.
June of 97, June of 97, and then November 2005 was Measure M. That did not pass.
Right. That was
Measure
the
B
first time.
passed in June of 2007. Again, no language of oversight wording was included. And then in June of 2016, it was called Measure H, and that continued the 2007-1 CFD. And that was when it included language with the Citizens Oversight Committee.
Okay. Yeah, and so that's one of the things that I noticed was that in each of the ballot measures, it doesn't reference specifically, but it does say we will continue the previous, or we'll continue the committee, the Citizen Oversight Committee. In Measure H, it says it'll be 2001 continued with the Citizens Oversight Committee. And so it seems like each time it goes to the voters, they are being told that we're going to continue what was there, essentially, without a specificity. So, and that's fine. I think that's totally fine. When the latest resolution, I believe, was not last year, it was 2 years ago, in 2018, right? So in 2018, that was after the vote had passed.
Correct.
Right?
Yes, because there were questions
Yeah.
we needed to clarify.
Yes. And so the thing that kind of struck me was that I wanted to discuss the appropriateness of resolution changing or adjusting, if that's what it's doing, the duties of a oversight committee that's established by the voters to be changed at the direction of council if it's not going back to vote. So if the citizens, and this is a hypothetical, if the citizens are in favor of something and they're voting on it with a certain understanding, whatever that is, and then I wonder about the appropriateness if the council later, after the vote, changes the role, if that differs materially from what the voters had approved. And so then the question to me becomes, what did the voters understand when they were approving this? If the 2016 measure continued to 2007 continued 1997, then it stands to reason that what the voters are truly approving is the roles as understood in 1997 or any other clarifying language therein up to and including the vote. So that's kind of my understanding of how it should work.
And that's not how it worked.
That is not how it works.
No, it is not
So
how it works.
That's why
Yeah.
when I see, am I on the right here, Measure H? Measure H was 2016?
Yeah.
Okay, so Measure H has continued this thing, and so if you go back to the language that is listed as duties at the Feb 2006, which is one of the other previous clarifications that's going to be continued, those A through H items, I'm not sure what page of the packet it is, those A through H items, specifically A, B, and E, seem to be inconsistent with the resolution that was adopted in 2018. And so 2018, I would characterize the gist of this document to be giving direction that, to be focusing on budget matters. I'm trying to summarize at a high level what all of these things are going towards, but they all talk about reviewing funding, but, making recommendations through budget and whatnot. Whereas, and that's all consistent here in this document. However, when you look back at the 2006 language, it's more than just that. So the language that seems like was originally envisioned is more expansive than that was constrained or construed within the 2018 resolution. It seems like it's in the weeds, but that's why I asked for the item. So, like, for example, item A in 2006 says, serve as the principal advisory group. Okay, that's very consistent. Pertaining to essentially public roadway landscaping, trail system, Clayton fountain, open space, weed abatement services, and infrastructure. So that's fairly broad. Item B is review and recommend policies and practices to the city council and city manager concerning care, maintenance, repair, replacement, and improvement of the district's assets and infrastructures. So when we're talking about policies and practices, that's different than budget to me.
But still advisory, and they
Still
still
advisory.
do that.
Yes.
Still advisory, but it seems like it's more than that. So I don't think that it's a large change or
Well,
any change really.
And maybe if I can clarify what they did do under that in the past that we are using now, because this was when the group first started out with the new ballot measure. We have a trails inventory that was done that talked about what were the standards on the trails.
Right.
We created a tree planting list for our roadway infrastructure, and then there were some other practices that were developed
and reviewed by the Trails and Landscaping Committee and recommended to the City Council. So they were recommending some policies and practices related to the care of the Landscape Maintenance District's assets and brought that forward to the City Council for their review and determination. So those are things that can continuously be reviewed and re-looked at by the Trails and Landscaping Committee. We do give that, and we do go over it with them annually to see if there's any updates that need to be made to the documents.
The page you're referring to, Jeff, I think is page 83 of the packet.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm at now. And I guess the two items that I thought stood out to me was the following page. So packet page 84, internal reference, page 5 of the proposed new resolution. The two items are kind of in the center, and it says, 3 items, I guess. The review contract plan, essentially these 3 sections, the one that starts with the review of contracts, plans, specifications, and then the next one's determination of spending priorities, and the next one's the review and or recommending contracts. Those 3 items are specifically directed towards city staff, city manager, city council.
Right.
And it seems like we would want the TLC to be advisory on these items as well. So that seems more consistent with the more expansive language that's talking about in the previous thing. So that's the reason why I raised this. And I would think, I understand that it's appropriate that ultimately how do we call it? The execution of contracts and, plans and all that, that's the responsibility of city and city staff. But I do think as an advisory committee, it's important to have the involvement in those things in each of these areas that here in this document specifically excludes the TLC from participation. So that's why I raised that. And I think having that as the advisory committee is more consistent with the language, it's more consistent with the intent of what the voters would think. And really I think what really drew this out was that when you mentioned the planter boxes earlier, planter boxes are great. I think that's a great project. But I know that project did increase beyond what was originally envisioned by the TLC at the time. And I think it moved forward without a lot of input from their point of view, because that's what they've said when they came to the podium. They said, well, we didn't get a chance to.
Some of those members were not on the TLC at the time, in all fairness. They were not.
Yeah, that's true.
It was a recommendation by the TLC at the time. We had analyzed the boxes. We thought they needed to be repaired. We had a 2-week gap from the time that the TLC made that recommendation to when we were rolling up the final budget recommendations to the city council. The city engineer and a couple of other people went out and looked at those with an arborist and said, oh no, these trees are root bound and they're breaking the boxes down. You need to replace them. The city manager then made a recommendation to the council with that new information to adjust the project. Otherwise, we would not be able to include it in that fiscal year's budget. We were down to the wire. So the council agreed with that recommendation to expand the scope. 3 or 4 weeks later, we went back to the TLC and explained to them that scope had changed because of this new information. The TLC members that were on board at that time were fine with that. They were absolutely okay with that, and they were glad that additional information was been able to be put forward to the city council so that could be timely done in that fiscal year's plan. We got a new TLC that came on board a year later who felt that they should have been involved in some of that. And a couple of TLC members who had been on board were gone at the meeting when we gave the update. So there was a communication gap there, but it was urgent that we make sure that information got to the council. The council could have said, you know what, go ahead and send it back to the TLC and let's wait till next fiscal year. But time was of the essence. We were hoping to be able to get moving on it quickly. But in terms of your one item that you, I think, mentioned, it, the determination of spending priorities, schedules, project details, and financing plans, district responsibilities are the authority of the city manager, city council, and professional staff. What's not clear in that language, because I wrote this language with the city manager, was that was talking about implementing the operations, the daily operations. We had TLC members who wanted to say, on Monday and Wednesday, the priorities should be this for your staff, and here's what all's been approved in the budget. I want you to do this one first. And we had other priorities we need to do in order to carry out what's needed for the full fiscal year. They're not telling us which one during that full fiscal year is going to be the first priority to do, the second priority. We have to schedule that based upon resources, staff time. So this is more of an operational, implementing operations than the big picture that you're talking about. Definitely the TLC is involved in priorities of the budget, making those recommendations to the council, the spending priorities, how are we doing with our plan of maintenance? Are there changes we need to make? Are there some ideas we have as staff or they may have, like the downtown planter boxes was brought to our attention by a TLC member saying they were in bad shape. And we can put those together and talk about those at the TLC and in concepts, planter boxes needing to be repaired or replaced, a median island maybe needing to be redone, but not down to the details of a detailed construction plan and specifications, but higher level concepts. And then the TLC thinks that that's a project that they would like to recommend to the council. Staff will put together some dollars, what we think it might take, and include that and bring that forward to the council. So they're very engaged in that level. And I think that's where what you're saying is that clarity's not there in this resolution.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that's, I would agree with that last statement. I do remember when we did, I was here when we approved the planter boxes, and, at the time, former Mayor Hayden came, and one of the things that he said was, did we consider, did they do this process? And he called it out at the time. The member, the gentleman from the TLC that presented also at the same time raised the same issue. And so whether or not, out of expedience, it was necessary to move forward, I do think that communication, that involvement, there's obviously a disconnect in that. And so I think clarifying that, like I said, I totally think that the role segregation is appropriate and that city staff should do all these things. But the language here, as it's written, if I were reading it, it would communicate to me that the TLC is not part of these functions as it's written. So I guess that's the reason why I brought this up, is that I think it'd be better to clarify the language so that it does say what we want it to say. It reiterates like the involvement of the committee as, in their advisory capacity among all of these activities and not just on matters of budget, which I think the current document is focused on. And whether or not, I don't think that includes, designating Mondays and Wednesdays or whatnot. I think that would be kind of silly. But I do think that having that, making sure that the guidelines reflect the intent and that the involvement under that advisory capacity, more than just the budget, is reflected. I think that would be valuable, especially because we have the majority of members are now new, and that would help make sure that all the roles are clearly stated.
And if I can ask the Vice Mayor, do you not feel that that's adequately covered by the second and third item on that same page? Where it says review and recommend policies and practices to the City Council concerning the care, maintenance, repair, replacement, improvement of the district's assets and infrastructure. That's a role of the TLC. And assist the staff in its development and recommendation to the City Council of landscaping, trail, open space system improvements in the district.
Those were exactly the two that 3
Oh,
seconds
I was
earlier,
asking because
relying on.
is there
I think it
something more we
could.
need to put in there?
I think it could, but when you read the document in total, it doesn't. If those were taken alone, but when read in context of the rest of the document, because this says specifically, planned specifications are not part of the TLC's role.
Right.
So if a TLC member says, we're doing this large planter box replacement, it'd be great if I could look at the plans, just, I want to take a look. With this, we could say no.
That's correct, because what happens is the plans and specifications, once we have the budget authorization, the city engineer goes to work and prepares plans and specifications, puts it out to bid, and then the bids come in and come back to the city council in order to keep the project moving along. Plans and specifications that are a high level of engineering work, it's not a concept plan. Sometimes we talk about the concept just in narrative forms, which we did on the planter boxes. Other times there may be, gee, we're going to take this island and here's where the pretty plants are going to go, but we're not going to specify maybe all the details of that and put in an irrigation system to show them, but we know we have to do that work because that's done in the field by maintenance. So we don't have a construction plan that we stop to draw up to bring into them.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying if there's plans that exist and someone says, can I see it? The answer under this could be no. I don't think that's appropriate.
But
I think the answer should be yes.
Anything can be seen. Any member of the public can see in any city document.
They wanted to review it before it went out to bid, and we didn't even have the plans drawn up at the time they were asking to see them. So
And
it
they
took
were
us a
asking
year to draw
for-
up the plans.
And they wanted to include construction specifications, which is
City council
really
doesn't even see
be-
that stuff.
No, we
So,
don't
I mean-
even do that.
I mean, even tonight, when we talked about the traffic improvements, we're not going to expect the city engineer to draw them up and us to comment and provide feedback. So we approve
That's
the
their job.
concept.
Yeah, and that's the type of
we
concept
give
that we
direct.
bring to the TLC is, we're looking at this section, we want to re-landscape this section. At the planter boxes, we identified how many planter boxes and on a little map, which ones they were downtown that we were going to replace, and what type of tree we were going to put back in there.
Jeff, I just want to make a comment that I hear the intention and I hear what you're saying moving forward, because the word that pops out is just involving the TLC, getting them involved with staff, and I definitely think we'll involve TLC more in the process. I'm just saying we hear you now.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, involvement and, basically involvement. I think that goes a long way. It leans on the people who have volunteered to do this role, and I think that's a good thing. It allows them to participate, and it makes sure that, the folks that are, spending the time on this, who have an interest in it, are able to do so fully. Not saying that they're going to be the final decision makers on these things, but just having them involved to an extent that, whereas we use language that doesn't exclude them, I think that's valuable.
But isn't it important to clarify the roles? In terms of plan review, specs, all these detailed stuff, that's not what we have expertise in, or even the TLC members. That's professional staff who has expertise to do that job.
And we just appointed somebody that actually does have expertise in that. But can we ask, it's not time sensitive that this be fixed tonight, but it could be that we throw that back to staff with the comments we've made to make it clearer, make it not so exclusionary, so that there is a sense of participation in understanding and being able to give feedback without getting into the weeds of the individual specs and things like that. There's got to be a way to phrase that. So it's an overview. They're definitely doing all of the budget oversight. Absolutely.
That piece, that's very clear.
That was the piece that we actually campaigned on and talked about most when we passed the measure, was that we wanted to have this body as an independent sort of internal audit committee, if you will, to oversee, to make sure that the funds were staying in the district, they were staying for what they were intended to, that kind of thing. But to also have them bring ideas forward on what might be something that we could use to enhance the community. And in fact, in the last term, one of the members brought forward the idea, we were always getting complaints about the dog poop on the trails and on the sidewalks, and somebody said, can't we get one of those doggy mitt stations and stuff and the disposal thing, because you've all seen it on social media. People complain about somebody dropping the bag in their garbage can,
It's, I don't want anybody else using my garbage can, even when it's set out for the trash that day. I mean, it's just, it causes upset. And he said, can't we get some of those stations? Other cities have them. Brought it to the council. We thought about where's the money going to come from. He even found the money at CBCA and was responsible for finding, in fact, 2 years of allocations, one yet to come, to get that paid for. So that was an idea that came from the public through the committee up to us to use some of the funds for. And that's a totally terrific thing for them to come up with these ideas and to oversee and help figure out what are the highest priorities to recommend to us. And then staff draws it up and puts numbers to it and says, how far can we go and when can we get it done? And, where are the staff resources, that kind of thing. So I think we need to clarify, because you're absolutely right, this is kind of a jumble. And Laura's absolutely right. The sort of stream of consciousness direction given by the council at the last meeting is a bit duplicative. We have some redundant statements in there. And maybe we clean it up and take a stab, and maybe you want to work on that. Maybe you and somebody else want to volunteer to preview some language after staff gets it together to come back to the council.
My recommendation for the council would be probably the council liaison and the alternate to the Trails and Landscaping Committee if they want to work
That's why I was leaning this direction.
Yeah, well, if I may, with all this, and once you get all that language together, it seems to me, and I think the same thing applies to the Planning Commission, is to have a formal session with the new members. You got an opportunity right now with five new members.
Right.
To sit down with them and go through the roles and responsibilities. And then I think then that we'd start off with a clean slate of knowing what their responsibility is. And, yeah, if you want more detail, you can certainly get it. You're just like any other person in the community that can get it. And that way we clarify at the beginning.
And the staff does do that every time you appoint new TLC members. That's the first
There's
part of
an
our meeting is to go
orientation
over all
meeting.
that and to remind those that are returning as well.
And to invite their creativity and ideas, I think is important, because, like I said, we wouldn't have these little doggy mitt stations popping up around town without that creativity and resourcefulness. So would you two be an ad hoc committee for working with staff and put that together for a future meeting?
Sure.
I mean, it could,
I think
I
it'd
don't
be
know
good.
that
I don't
we
know when the
want it-
next scheduled TLC meeting
We
is.
meet as needed, and we've been waiting to have appointments made by the council.
Yeah.
So thank you this evening.
Have a quorum.
yeah, that would be helpful. The next meeting's going to be pretty busy. Could we have it come back the middle of March?
Certainly.
Okay.
And it seems to me that on page 5, the top 3 items there kind of start to talk about, I think, what the vice mayor is mentioning about, and maybe those areas need to be worded differently to provide more clarity going after what you're thinking about.
Let's do it after a TLC meeting.
After TLC meeting?
Because you'd want
It's
to.
9 o'clock at night.
No, I meant not directly after the TLC meeting.
A day later.
I mean, after the TLC meeting is held.
But
Wait,
But
that's
the-
the same thing.
No, and I think if we have new members, I think we'd rather,
Before.
you'd rather have it defined.
yeah. So let's have staff work on it, shoot us a copy, and then we'll work and
We could do it the
together
second
and-
meeting
Yeah.
in March is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so we're not going to pass anything
Directly after.
tonight. We're going to have that one come back to us. And I'm back to my agenda. Is that sufficient direction? Okay,
We'll work with the ad hoc committee.
yes. Did I have any public comment on that one? I don't have any speaker cards. Did you get a sense of what we're looking for? Yes. All right, very good. You can help carry the message. That's great. Okay, and thank you for helping. That's great. Item 9 is limited to council requests and directives for future meetings. The next few meetings are pretty full, so it can't be something that's urgent.
I don't have anything urgent, but I do have one request for staff, if you could just find something out and report back, and it doesn't have to be at a hearing, it could be just report back by email, but at least I had a copy of the CEMEX's little flyer that talks about changes. I think they're in the process of redoing their reclamation plan. A reclamation plan sounds great because that means the ending of their operations, but I think a lot of us also have heard that they actually are planning to intensify their use. I know that this is in Concord, so it's outside of our jurisdiction.
No, it's not Concord, it's in the county.
Oh, it's in the county, okay, but it's still
You're
would
talking
not.
CMEX on Mitchell Canyon
Yes,
Road, which
yes.
is
Quarry.
in Clayton's sphere of influence, actually.
Okay,
But if you
But it's
recall,
in the
they had originally planned to do a change to the reclamation plan a couple of years ago. The application was determined to be incomplete. They've gone back to the drawing board. They've now submitted revised a new reclamation plan to the county, and the county has sent out that notification as they will be holding scoping meetings to find out about the environmental impact report that they will need to do on this change to or environmental document to the change. Originally, the plan there was to fill the hole and grade it all out and hydroseed it and kind of make it look like the natural landscape. The last plan that was not completed, it was an incomplete application, was to leave the hole. They would continue to do pit mining there, make it deeper, and then allow that to fill with rainwater to become a lake over 100 and some odd year period of time, and basically walk away from the development.
It was several hundred
And so-
feet deep by that time.
Oh,
As
good
far as
Lord.
either quarry, they still have many decades of mining activity still to go forward with. They're just trying to work on their plan for when they cease operations. They want to do something completely different than what has already been approved and been on file with the county.
Yeah, they go through the mid-century with the current.
yeah,
That one's gonna be gone.
I thought there were plans for them to increase their activities too.
Yes, to go
There were.
deeper.
To go deeper.
But did those get
Several hundred
approved?
feet into,
The hole.
almost straight down into the hole.
Did those so are those in the,
They've already have authorization to do that under their current mining activity. They want to
how
go
they
deeper,
reclaim.
though, than what they're currently allowed. They're not at the depth, at the bottom of the floor yet. They've still got some work.
okay, so I mean, it's a long time away when they actually get to the reclamation, but, our residents, some of them are impacted by the quarry, and I think all of us visually see it. So when and if there's a time that public comment can be provided, I would love for us to chime in time to provide feedback.
And maybe we can get an update from the county and from the quarry at the same meeting. That might be good. The quarry has always offered to be very friendly, so
And there's a new quarry manager who's
I
just
know.
started as well, so.
that's who's making the new overtures. Yes. So, okay. Any other council items for future meetings? Hearing none, we will go past that. We have no closed sessions this evening. That brings us to adjournment, and I want to echo what Jim said earlier. We've lost two longtime members of the community. Carmen and Don Williams ran what was called the Village Market then, but it was always known as the Blue Store. And it was a fixture for a long time with Carmen there, and she will be greatly missed. She was part of Historic Society events, Garden Club. She was all of the various activities, and she came pretty regularly. Yep, she was very spry, and a beautiful woman inside and out. And Tim O'Hara was one of our really wonderful police officers and sergeants for a long, long time, and took a special interest in the youth of the community and working with them through the sports programs at the Catholic Church and things like that, and two really wonderful members of our community who passed away in the last week or so. So we will adjourn tonight's meeting in their memory. Thank you all. We are adjourned.